Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington, and interested parties. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of June 5th, 2024. For the record, President Schwab will be participating in this evening's meeting remotely, and I'll be providing over the meeting, and I see he's already here, so good luck with the technology. The City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Public Meetings Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person, remote via Zoom, or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in future via Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Please note that we do not allow comments of any kind on campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. We ask that the audience refrain from clapping, cheering, or booing, and no signs of any kind are allowed in chambers. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin?
Excused.
Councilmember Ryan?
Here.
Councilmember Bader?
Here.
Councilmember Toohey?
Here.
Councilmember Vogely?
Here.
Councilmember Fossey?
Here.
President Schwab?
Here.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Here. Councilmember Bader, will you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand for
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to ask Councilmember Ryan to please lead the please read the land acknowledgement.
The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Shahobs people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes, to bring about a future that includes their voices, their stories, and their people to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of the minutes of May 29th, 2024?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Second the motion.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes. Now it's time for public comment, which includes written comment acknowledgement. Under our rules, written comments are considered in the same manner as oral comments. The commenter must provide their name and city of residence. Written comments submitted without that information will not be made part of our official record. Angie, do we have written comments or people signed up to speak this evening?
Good evening, Vice President Zarlingo. We do have some written comments and public people who wish to speak. First, I'll do the written comments, and the following names are in regards to Clark Park Gazebo: Alexis Boys, John Phillips, Marilyn Weber, Anna Pennington, Dulcie Stout, and Rhonda Medicine Water. And I provided these to council, legal, city clerk, and administration to be part of the record. There are some people that wish to wait till we get to agenda item 9, but for the general comments, I will start with those individuals now. If the Balday family could please come to the podium. And just press the right button on the mic. And state your full name, city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Aissatou Balde. We live in Everett, near the Silver Lake area. And that's my husband, Mr. Balde, who just threw me under the bus right now. Yeah, so we are just basically here. We are both in real estate. And in that business, we did realize that there was a gap in event centers in the Everett area especially. And we have been working for about a year and a half. You should know something about that. So we finally got all the approvals and the place improved, and we are doing a grand opening on June 30th. And we are extending invites to some of the members here, and hopefully all of you can join us in opening the place and making sure it is a safe place for citizens in Everett to enjoy and be able to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if Alan could please come to the podium. Alan, yes, and please state your full name, city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, the volume on this is real low. My name is Alan Miller, Everett, Washington. I was here maybe a month ago talking about 21st and Rucker, the need for a four-way stop sign there. Traffic coming up Rucker from south to north during rush hour, it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, but they're doing 40. And it was gracious of you folks to get the card out there. And I sat there for a half a day and just watched as the numbers went up and up and up past 30. And once they saw the flashing sign, they would slow down. But, that's a deterrent for a day or two. And the machine goes away and the speed goes again. I was over there today and I had to wait maybe 3 to 4 minutes before I could cross the street. And another issue is that traffic is so congested over there and the parking is so congested that cars are parking right up to the curbing. I think we're supposed to have, 10, 15 feet from the curb back along the side. So, we may have to mark or at least inform the city of Everett that, they have to be a little more considerate of, the cross traffic trying to get across a busy intersection. So I asked that, I can go out and get signatures. I'm sure I can get 50 to 100 signatures on a 2-block area there. Everybody's pretty fed up with it. So it'd be nice if, 4 signs, I'd be more than happy to put them up if the city needs a little labor to do that. It's no big deal for me, but somebody's going to get killed there. And let's try to be proactive and get the signs up and make it a little more friendly for the environment there. And I think that's about it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if Evan could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hey, Council. Evan Reed, City of Everett, Executive Director of Bunker Arts Collective. If you're not familiar with me, we pick up trash and we paint murals. That's kind of our whole shtick. We're currently at 7 tons now, 7.3 tons since November. Over 200 single-use sharps, couple dozen shopping carts returned. And regarding murals, we're starting to ramp up things. So the Marysville Boys and Girls Club is getting the first part of our reimbursement grant that we were awarded. We were rewarded through the Snohomish County's Division of Behavioral Health. That includes 3 murals, a community garden, a little free library, a basic needs pantry, and a community bulletin board. Once we're reimbursed, that's then going to fund 15 murals around the city of Everett. Including 10 free art in the park opportunities around all Everett public parks. So I'm really, really excited about that. We're going to choose a different park every weekend for 10 consecutive weeks. And we're working on the special use permits right now. So it's tedious, but I think it's going to be really rewarding to get our families out there to utilize our beautiful public park system while also taking advantage of some free arts and crafts. So that's all I have today. I just wanted to update you on the good progress. And I do say, my cat is now the CEO because I'm just so busy. She's now the cat executive officer. So yes, I'm going to leave these over here. And if you'd like one, great. If not, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you. And the remaining would like to wait till agenda item 9.
Thank you, Angie. Let's see, next on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Ryan.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Earlier this evening, we had our Health and Human Services Committee. We received an update from the Community Development Department. Julie Willey provided a really great update of all of the balls that they have in the air to help address the human needs in our community. And they're just doing a really great job, and I'm really proud of the work that they're doing to address the situations that we see on the street of people in crisis and people needing help. So kudos to the team. Also today's been very busy. Also today, the progress flag was raised over the county campus for the 4th year in a row. It was a very well-attended event, including Mayor Franklin, Councilmembers Vogely, Fossey, and Zarlingo were there, and myself as well. There's also a resource fair and a taco truck, and it was a really great way to celebrate the community, the LGBTQIA plus community, and just uplift all the events going on across the county as well. So happy Pride Month. Also today, the Snohomish County Council unanimously passed a project labor agreement and priority hire ordinance for all county projects over $5 million. This council-initiated policy, championed by Councilmember Megan Dunn, will go a long ways towards supporting workers and family wage jobs. The process was initiated in January of this year, and even with a couple of hiccups in scheduling, it was unanimously passed today, June 5th. Congrats to the county. In light of this, I'd like to respectfully request an update at our next council meeting on where we're at with our city's efforts towards a PLA and supporting workers in our community, and a clear timeline for next steps. And if you need a model ordinance, the county has one that's spot on. Thank you.
Councilmember Bader.
No report, no comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Tui.
Yeah, just a couple things. Jennifer, if we could get an update on the Rucker, the 21st and Rucker speeding issues and take a look at that from the city side, that would be great.
Yes, definitely.
Just a reminder, that Sorticulture Festival is this weekend, and it's gonna be beautiful weather. It starts on Friday. It runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with lots of events, lots of speakers, workshops, lots of vendors, artists, gardeners, so it should be a lot of fun. So, 3 days, so look forward to that. Thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Oakley.
Yes, thank you. I was able to go on the Parks Board tour yesterday. Yeah. And that was super neat. We got to tour a bunch of our parks, and I got probably the best birthday present ever. Maybe not ever, but I did find out that the walking path around Walter Hall, which I had in my brain as going around the park itself, is actually going to go into a street that is close to my house, so I can actually get to the park, and a lot of other community members can as well, because it's not just me living in an island over there. But I was jumping and exclaiming, and it was kind of ridiculous. So other wonderful things too, but a walking path to get more of my neighborhood to be able to just walk to the park easily was the bright point for me. I was also at Arlington Pride on Sunday, and I wanted to share that because of our work last year, there were some awards given, and the council, I failed to bring the certificate, but they did award our Everett City Council an award because we were I can't think of the word right now. It's not beneficial, but we did a good job helping keep open carry away last year. And this year, the only problem was just the dumping rain. It was so wet. And yeah, that is all. Thank you.
Councilmember Fossey.
Thanks. I was really excited to attend the Pride flag raising. There were so many people there. It was the biggest one yet, and just really well done with County Council Member Dunn and everyone that put that on. So thank you so much. And yes, I did get to go to Arlington Pride, and this council was really instrumental in making sure that it was clear that armed intimidation is never something that should be allowed in, political spaces or places where, people express themselves, or really anywhere. And we had a really positive impact on that community and all of our residents that attended there. And so it was no issues this year. So well done to all of my fellow council members on your action on that issue, because it made a difference for this and that community. I wanted to give a heads up that the Everett Housing Authority will be having a community meeting / neighborhood meeting this June 20th coming up. It'll be at the Bakerview Large Hall, that community center there. More information I can share on that, and the city will share out too. But it'll be a presentation on their upcoming project. And so be sure to attend if you can. And I was wondering if Jennifer Gregerson or somebody could get back to me on the process for changing the speed limit on 16th Street down to 25 for the sake of, safe routes to school for our kids. That I think would be really helpful, especially given the time that we're in right now with some people utilizing our side streets. It's kind of a little bit of a foresight of what we'll be looking at going forward, so it'll be helpful right now. And then lastly, I don't know if anyone has followed what's been going on in Renton, but they successfully passed a minimum wage policy that was pretty, it was voted by the people. And so I would like to move to work with the city attorney to develop an ordinance to place on an initiative on the November 2024 ballot to raise our minimum wage here in Everett.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion.
Councilmember Schwab.
We have a motion and a second, so Attorney
I will
Hall.
work with Councilmember Fossey and Schwab if he's interested and develop the ordinance that meets your needs.
Thank you so much. That's all.
And in terms of public feedback, I guess I do want to make clear that what's being proposed here, if I understand it correctly, is a measure that the public will vote on for approval.
This will be an ordinance that the council member will propose at a future council meeting, and it will go through the normal ordinance process, including public comment.
Great, thank you. Let's see, a couple of quick things from me, one of them reflecting one of our earlier commenters. There has apparently been a shortage of gathering spaces here in Everett for a variety of communities we have, and some of them have been forced to go outside of Everett to gather and do the kind of socializing that keeps those communities whole and healthy. So I appreciate the fact that we're improving those opportunities here and having that kind of thing happen here in Everett in a space that had otherwise not been used for a while. I'd also like to express appreciation for administration and staff in working to resolve problems, weird wrinkles about permitting and reusing spaces. It's always a very complicated thing to do. Then one other quick thing to mention, last week with Councilmember Ryan and Director Gregerson, we attended the Puget Sound Regional Council's General Assembly. The PSRC is one of the principal implementers of the Growth Management Act, something the public voted in 30 years ago now to help coordinate growth in the fastest growing counties in the Puget Sound region. So this is what helps us cooperate as cities and avoid pushing burdens around between city to city. We do a better job with this, and so I'm grateful for Councilmember Ryan and Director Gregerson for being there with me. It's a good chance not only to work with that group, but to establish personal connections, because certainly there are a lot of processes and laws and regulations and wrinkles, but a lot of it depends on trust and knowledge of each other and familiarity, and so I really appreciate that opportunity. And that's it for me. Director Gregerson, do we have an administration update this evening?
Perhaps Council President Schwab might have comments as well.
Councilmember Schwab.
No report, thank you.
I intuited that.
Great. Let's see, wrong tab, there we go. I also just wanted to point out that Councilmember Bader was at the Puget Sound Regional Council event as well, and serves ably on the Growth Management Policy Board there. I have just a couple things. So first, the mayor let all of you know that she couldn't make it tonight because she has other obligations and she's sorry to miss tonight's meeting. I just thought I would share that again for those that didn't get that email. Last week, Councilmember Fossey asked a couple questions about the job order contracting process, and I have a couple answers. the solicitation process that we'll go through allows all qualified contractors to submit responses, so we don't have a particular vendor in mind. We're conducting that request for proposal process as governed by state statute. And we don't have an exact timeline yet, but the existing contract expires at the end of November, so we are thinking we would go through that sort of through the summer and come back to council in September, October to request an award. Related to something that's on your agenda tonight and a question from Councilmember Vogely about Clark Park and budgeting. I sent an email yesterday that described the mechanics of how our budgets function, so the operating budget versus how we do capital funding. And that also walked through the circumstances of the Clark Park Dog Park and gazebo projects as they changed, as costs were fine-tuned in between that initial staff budget estimating process last September and then the first quarter of this year. And that's what led us to the estimate that's in your council agenda for the larger dog park, the storage of the gazebo materials, and sort of the current budget estimate. So I hope that answered all of your questions and just highlighting that. Let's see. I think I just have one other thing. I just thought this was a great thing to highlight. Our communications team regularly works on this, but this week shared that our number of broken links on the city website is down 81% since they started their review about 6 months ago. And there are maybe only like 15 broken links left at this point. So I know they've been gradually, working through that. And I think that was a nice statistic to share. Yeah, I think that's it for. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe just to add that I noted various questions and they're on my list and you will hear from me with answers later. Yeah.
Thank you. Attorney David Hall.
No report and no executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to our consent items. Do I hear a motion for the 7 consent items?
Councilmember Bader, so moves.
Second the motion?
Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes. And now on our proposed action item 8 has already been read into the record. This is the second reading of Council Bill 2405-09. Are there questions or comments from the council at this point? All right, hearing none, then we will be voting on that at a future meeting. Moving on now to our action item, Council Bill 2405-08. This is the third and final reading. The proposal is to adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Clark Park Renovation and Off-Leash Dog Area. It's Fund 354, Program 101, to accumulate all costs for this project. Our Parks and Facilities Director, Bob Leonard, is here to provide a quick overview. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening. Bob Leonard, Parks and Facilities Director for the City of Everett. I'm here tonight to provide some brief introductory remarks regarding the Clark Park renovation project and answer any remaining questions council may have. Parks is excited about the future of Clark Park as we look forward to implementing the renovation project that council is voting on the funding ordinance for tonight. As the city's first park, we believe that Clark Park can once again return to its history of being a place of celebration, community gathering, and fun. We believe that the new dog park will be transformative and a great story of how positive activation can enhance neighborhood parks. Tonight, I want to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the Historic Commission Advisory Board. We believe this project is better because of their efforts. With input garnered from the 3 historical commission meetings we went to, we were able to incorporate many mitigation design elements into the overall project plan. The main sally port for the dog park was redesigned to include the post, beam, and corbel design seen in the gazebo. A commemorative marker and plaque at the current location of the gazebo, as well as interpretive signage about the history of Clark Park and the gazebo were also added to the project. I also want to acknowledge and thank the Bayside neighborhood for their patience and all their work on this project. No one in this community has worked harder than the Bayside neighborhood to bring about this transformation of Clark Park, and we want to acknowledge all of their efforts. I also want to thank council, especially Councilmember Toohey and Council President Schwab, for their financial commitment to helping the gazebo see a second life in a new home. I want to emphasize the city's commitment to making sure that the dismantling and storing of the gazebo is only temporary until we can figure out the best way to restore it. With all this great work done by everyone, we do believe that the Clark Park renovation project is the right choice for Everett, the right choice for Bayside, and the right choice for Clark Park. And that concludes my remarks, and please let me know if there's any questions.
All right, well, we will take public comment for those who have waited to speak on this item, and then open this up to council questions and comments following the public comment. So, Director Gregerson, we have
We do
some
have
comments.
some public comment. So Angie had another obligation, so I'm filling in, and hopefully it'll go smoothly. So first up, we have Lisa, if you want to come to the podium. And then Jane is after that. The mic's already on, which is great. And just start with your full name and city of residence for the record, and then you have 3 minutes, and you'll look at the timer to get your warning.
Okay. Hello again. Good evening. My name is Lisa Phillips, and I live in Bayside. I shared my thoughts about Council Bill 240508 2 weeks ago, but I feel it's important to speak to you again tonight. Bayside Neighborhood has been the only group to show an interest in the gazebo over the last 6 years. Bayside Neighborhood has also been working with the Parks Department over the last 4 years on issues that plague our neighborhood park. The neighbors are requesting the addition of the dog park to Clark Park and the removal of the gazebo and placed in a new location. The neighbors that live closest to Clark Park support the removal of the gazebo. You've heard from several of them about the activities that occur inside the gazebo due to the privacy of its location. You've heard about drug deals, drug use, violence, including a stabbing, and even folks yelling at the high school women's tennis team, which I guess depends on who you ask whether it's an advantage or not. Parks are exempt from the no sit, no lie buffer zones for good reason. Our parks should be enjoyed by everyone. We want the park to be used by everyone. I'm asking you to vote yes for the dog park and yes for the removal of the gazebo. This vote will transform the park not only for Everett residents today, but for future generations. I appreciate everything you do and the donation of time that you commit to our beautiful city, so thank you.
Jane is next, and Dulcie is after that. Oh, sorry.
Good evening. Council members, thank you for your time. My name is Jane McClure, and I am an Everett resident on Rucker Street, and I'm with the Bayside Neighborhood Association. So how is a bad reputation restored? How can detrimental public behaviors be changed? What sacrifices need to be made for the public good? So when Bayside Neighborhood Association began working with the city in 2018, the intention always was preservation, restoration as part of reactivating Clark Park. The goal was stopping our neighborhood parks' decline and from further declines, a decline that we might not be able to bring it back from. At no other time in the past 30 years has this much attention been focused on our beleaguered historical Clark Park. The park best known as the homeless park, the neighborhood with tennis courts on one side and a park where kids can't go to play unless a ground sweep for needles and drugs paraphernalia has been done first on the other. Clark Park has changed repeatedly over the past 100 years. The cannon is gone, the totem pole is gone, the band shell is gone, the stump house is gone. There have been good reasons that each of these much beloved public remembrances had to be removed, and I'll wager that each time it was to protect the public from potential harm. And so it is with the gazebo. The gazebo is not ADA compliant, so it's not accessible to all. It's not an attraction to today's kids and parents. No benches inside, no water or electricity available, no public restrooms in the park, no parking lot for major events, because it's a neighborhood park. And it needs to change again to fit with the times that we live in. Bayside doesn't have an extensive mailing list of Everett locals that remember Clark Park, its ancestors, and what they did when it was Milltown go-to destination. These people don't now, nor will they plan to visit Clark Park on a regular basis. It's not in their neighborhood. However, to remove the gazebo, relocate it, rebuild it in a more scenic location, resplendent with water vistas and breathtaking scenery, and they'll show up in droves, just like the old Weyerhaeuser offices. Location, location, location. Clark Park reactivation begins with the off-leash dog park. Will it answer 100% of the issues we face? Heck no. It will begin by displacing, disrupting, and removing the shelter for loitering and drug use that the gazebo has become. Our neighborhood is willing to sacrifice this beloved structure to another location as a first step in rebuilding the reputation of Clark Park. Please help us achieve that new beginning. Thank you.
Next is Dulcie, followed by Teresa.
Hello, council members. I just wanted to come and stand before you again tonight and state my support for removal of the gazebo from Clark Park and relocation to a different location where it can be restored and celebrated and used for, events. I just want to thank Bob and Kimberly and the rest of the Parks and Facilities staff for the research that they did and all the time they put into designing this beautiful dog park. And I do support the addition of the dog park to Clark Park. And so as I stated last week, I do hope that you just prioritize the well-being and quality of life and health of us, your current Bayside residents and all of Everett, and vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Dulcie, before you head off, can you just state your full name, city of residence for the record? Thanks.
Dulcie Stout, I live in Bayside neighborhood, Everett.
Thank you. Teresa, great. And then next is Patrick.
Hello, my name is Teresa Gemmer, and I am a resident of the Bayside neighborhood. And unlike someone said last week, I do care about my neighbors and about my city. I'm a member of the Historical Commission, and I support the Historical Commission position. I hope that some of you have been able to have time to read through that letter and really think about it. But tonight, I'm speaking for myself. And what I wonder is why, knowing that the demolition of the historic Clark Park gazebo located in the city-owned historic site was controversial, why is the fate of the gazebo being determined as part of a budget package for building a dog park? Although the question, is there a reason that the gazebo had to be entwined with the dog park budget? And if so, I'm now after what I'm hearing tonight, which is great that there's consideration of rebuilding it, then why isn't there some money in that budget for that rebuilding? The question has been asked, but it's never been satisfactorily answered, why the gazebo can't coexist with a dog park. And I think that it's ironic that last week a speaker talked about problems at Jackson Park in his neighborhood, which has a dog park and no gazebo. And another resident talked about problems in Garfield Park, which also does not have a gazebo, although maybe we need to take down the baseball dugouts. So I wonder why city council members did not ask to vote on demolition of the Clark Park gazebo as a separate item. And my question, there's a proper procedure for that demolition, and my question is, who is it that should decide the fate of our historic assets? Should it be members of a neighborhood group? Should it be the park department head? Should it be the planning director? Should it be the mayor in a Facebook post? There is a proper procedure for considering the demolition of a historic structure, which also includes language that says when there are no feasible alternatives. And that process was not followed in this instance.
Thank you. Patrick is next, and then you'll be followed by Henry.
Which button? Oh, it's on right now. Okay.
It's on.
Hi. My name is Patrick Hall. I live in Everett. The opinions I express today are purely my own. One thing that I hope is not controversial about the Clark Park issue is the notion that the city should follow its own laws in making this decision. The purpose of the Everett Register of Historic Places is to encourage preservation of our heritage. Demolition is obviously contrary to this goal. However, The code does allow a legal path for such an action via city council vote. As you've heard in the recent letter from the Historical Commission, the Everett Municipal Code states that a waiver of the certificate of appropriateness is required before a permit may be issued to allow a whole or partial demolition of a designated Everett Register property. I don't know how this could have been stated any more clearly. Let me explain this once again. A certificate of appropriateness is required from the Historical Commission for building modifications. A waiver is required for demolitions, even partial ones. The difference between them might seem pedantic, but there's a key point. The COA can be overruled by the planning director. He alone decides. The waiver requires a city council vote. So essentially, city staff have decided amongst themselves that they alone can make this decision without going to council. If I were on the council, I would question that. This is why the commission got stuck on this for 3 months before deciding not to participate. Now, it's true that the council would still need to approve the funding, which is why we're here tonight, but that misses the point. The city shouldn't be allowed to bend the rules. It's true that the city attorney has decided to support the planning director's interpretation of the code. Although I'm not a lawyer, it's clear enough that another attorney could argue a different interpretation. However, the only court in which to challenge this decision is this one, City Council. Because these things are rarely litigated, there's not a lot of case law. However, Everett is a certified local government, certified meaning certified by the National Park Service. As such, the EMC's Historic Resources section closely matches the model ordinance provided by the Washington Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. I believe that they should have been consulted to determine the true intent of the ordinance. I partner with City of Everett staff in several different arenas, and on a personal level, I have a great respect for everyone I worked with. I am not meaning to imply any malfeasance. Still, I don't understand why the city would take this controversial tack with disturbing implications rather than the clear path which everyone would agree on. One could argue that the net result would be the same. If a waiver process had been used instead of the COA process, the commission likely would have voted no and still would. The city council likely would vote the same way that you're going to vote tonight, regardless of which process was used. However, one way sets a worrisome precedent, and the other way is above reproach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Henry is next, followed by Christie.
Hi, Henry Cotter, Everett, Chair of the Bayside Neighborhood Association. Good evening, council members. I come before you one last time to speak in favor of Council Bill 2405-08. No doubt you have heard from many people who are for and against the gazebo and the dog park, and I want to thank you for your time and consideration on this issue. For the past 2 weeks, and even tonight, we have laid bare the decades-long situation in Clark Park, so I won't rehash all of that tonight. I want to talk about the park's place in the city and what it could be in the future. Everett is a growing city. Per the Comp Plan 2044, Everett has a growth target of 38,000 new housing units and 76,000 new jobs. Tens of thousands of people will move here in the coming decades, and they will move into every neighborhood, including Bayside. These new residents will be looking for and expecting amenities and conveniences to make living here pleasant for themselves and their families. Residents like my wife and me. Moving here from overseas, we could have lived anywhere, but we chose Everett. We saw the walkable downtown, the shops, the restaurants, the arena, the newly remodeled Rucker Avenue, and yes, the city parks, and we decided to put down roots here. Through our involvement with Bayside Neighborhood Association, we see the advantages Everett has that other cities would pay a king's ransom for. We're located on a sound. We have a port and a marina. We have an airport that's a work in progress, but no doubt more flights will to more places will come over time. We have a major manufacturer that provides roughly 35,000 jobs. We can access an interstate that takes us to a major city full of industry, technology, and culture to the south and an international border to our north. Everett is in the sweetest of spots, and with respect to those who desire to leave, so many more people will come and take your place. Trust me. However great Everett is, and it is great, we all know we can still improve. It is not the biggest or splashiest project, but the bill that you will vote on tonight is a small step toward that improvement. The dog park will be a place that neighbors can go, meet, and converse. It will not eliminate, but alleviate the drug situation by bringing neighbors and dispersing dealers and users who frequent the park. Removing the gazebo to be reinstalled elsewhere, not demolished, will do the same. We have many ideas for the park. We would like to see the playground updated and expanded in the near future. Maybe a community garden. We're continuously considering new ideas, and we encourage more Bayside residents to come join us and share their ideas at our neighborhood meetings. In my short time here, I have heard many stories from residents about how wonderful Clark Park was. A park where kids played, families met, neighbors gathered. These are not dusty tales from generations past, but examples that have occurred in our lifetimes. It is clearly not that park today. Clark Park needs a win. We know what a gem Clark Park is and what it can be, and we won't stop striving to make it a real asset for Bayside and the city. A yes vote tonight will set Clark Park down the path to making that gem truly shine again. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy, and then Christina.
Hello, my name is Christy Anderson. I am a citizen of Everett, and I'm not a member of the association, but I live in Bayside and have for 28 years now. Before that, I lived farther south. The gazebo is not the problem. I like the idea of a dog park, but the gazebo is not what's causing the problem. We've got criminal activity. Last week, you had someone that talked about criminal activity in Garfield Park. The response from the city was not that we should tear down the dugouts or tear down the covered picnic structures there. It was that we have criminal activity in a park. Somebody else complained about criminal activity in, Jackson Park. And there wasn't an immediate reaction, well, let's tear down the covered picnic structures in Jackson Park. This is part of what we live with and part of what you've been dealing with for a long time about how do we address the people with drug use that don't want help and the people with mental health issues that maybe don't recognize that they have the mental health issues. For years, the gazebo was fenced off in the gazebo. That didn't stop the illegal activity from being there. And I actually, when the park was really bad, which hasn't been recently, I would see people using drugs in the lawn, underneath the trees, and, lay down or pass out or whatever. So it wasn't that it had to have a gazebo, that you had to be undercover in order to do illegal activities. People are going to do those activities, and those of us that live in a city are going to have to continue to try to figure out what you do with that. So I don't understand why the gazebo is part of a dog park. If you move that proposed fence to the south side of that gazebo, and if that would lose a few square feet, you could jog it around and then down. You can have a dog park in there. There will be more people in the park. Jackson Park, that someone complained about the illegal criminal activity, has a dog park. Having a dog park there isn't going to make everything be 1930 or 40 or the times that we were growing up when we didn't have to worry about these issues. So it's not the gazebo. So I like the idea of a dog park. My dog died in April, but I would have loved a dog park close to where I could walk, so I could walk to it and not have to load him up and clean muddy paws and the whole bit. So in addition with it not going through the intent, the process that is the intent by the code, it's not going to solve the problem. It's not the problem. It's a beautiful gazebo. It was built in Clark Park. It should stay in Clark Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean is next, and wait, Christina is next. Christina, sorry about that. Christina is next, and then Jean after that.
Hello, my name is Christina Sim. I live in the Bayside neighborhood of Everett, Washington, directly across from Clark Park, within view of the gazebo. And trust me, the gazebo is the problem. I live directly in front of it. I get to see it when I wake up in the morning, anytime throughout the day by just looking out one of my windows. Last thing at night, I get to hear it, I get to see it. All of my neighbors do. When people who don't live around the area of Clark Park say that it's not the gazebo, they are wrong. You can visit it and you can maybe see that things are okay from time to time, but it is the problem. So last week, I attended the city council meeting concerning the outcome of the gazebo, and I was dismayed to hear over and over again the public comments about demolition of the gazebo at Clark Park, when the rest of us who were listening to the Parks Department presentation clearly heard that the plan was not to tear down the gazebo, but to disassemble it, shrink wrap it, store it in a safe place, and reassemble it in a place where it will truly have a better life. A life where it can be appreciated for its historic value to the community at large in a location such as Harborview Park or Legion Park, or I'm sure some other lovely location. And as we all know, the Weyerhaeuser building was moved not once, but several times, and it's now in a location where it can truly be appreciated for its beauty and history. And that's what the Parks Department is attempting to do with the gazebo in Clark Park. As it is, to this day, the gazebo sits fallow. It's not being used by the community at large. And it's not being used for pleasure and enjoyment. It's being still misused and mistreated for many years since its prison walls, in the form of the chain link fence, was removed. It's now the center of all that is wrong with Clark Park. The drug use, the public intoxication, the filth, the noise, and the crime. And anybody can say whatever they want as far, well, it's not that bad, but yes, it is that bad. And if you don't have a house that's facing Clark Park, you wouldn't know, but it is that bad. So I appreciate the thought, time, and effort that you're all putting into the outcome of the gazebo. And as a resident who pays property taxes, as well as all of the other tax-paying community around Clark Park, I am asking you to please vote to move the gazebo so that the residents who live directly in front of Clark Park can have our neighborhood restored to the once safe, lovely place it was. And I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jean is next, and then Michelle.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Jean Sadie Hewitt, and I live in Everett, and I'm speaking this evening as a resident of Everett. I agree with the well-thought-out concerns expressed by the Historical Commission in the letter submitted to City Council a few weeks ago about the process surrounding the demolition of the gazebo and its ramifications for the owners of historic properties. If the City of Everett does not adhere to its own ordinances and codes, how can we expect our residents to do so? But I would also like to speak about the preservation of the Clark Park gazebo. It seems that there's little support for the Park Department original plan, which was to restore the gazebo, add removable shutters, and make it part of a dog park. That was the plan until January of 2023, and it was supported by the Parks Department, the Historical Commission, and the Bayside neighborhood. But for some reason, those plans have changed. And it seems there's no city interest in a compromise proposed by the Historical Commission to activate the park with a dog park, keep the gazebo, and see if conditions change while applying for grants for restoration and maintenance. Both of these plans have a great deal of merit. But since neither of these ideas appear to have support, and it seems that the gazebo will be taken down, I ask that City Council members tonight consider creating a clear decision path for the rebuilding or restoring of the Clark Park gazebo, possibly in a different location. This 103-year-old structure, designed by a local prominent architect, Benjamin Turnbull, is the last known structure of its kind. It should not be left languishing in a storage shed somewhere. There is no budgetary lines to restore the gazebo or to relocate the gazebo. I believe what is in front of the City Council is just to store it in a storage shed. Now, 2 council members have pledged ARPA funds to be used for restoration, and we're grateful for that. Historic Everett has a donor who has already pledged money. The city has resources to apply for grants, and the Historical Commission and others have reached out to the Washington Trust for help in researching local, state, and national grants. There is no plan currently to restore the gazebo or place it somewhere else. There are no budgets in front of the city to do that. Right now, what we are talking about is the gazebo to be taken down and stored, and that is it. So I ask that the city, please talk to the city and create an accountable path toward restoration. We can do this, and we can preserve this piece of Everett's history. In closing, I've heard all the arguments pro and con, and I admire the Bayside neighborhood for all the hard work that they've done reactivating the park. They're one of the most active neighborhoods in our city, and they do a lot of wonderful things. But I've also heard it said that this is not the days of brass bands and that the gazebo is a relic of a lost past. I just have 2 sentences left, if you'll indulge me. To me, that is the most compelling reason that Clark Park gazebo needs to be restored and preserved, ideally in Clark Park. It gives our city residents and their children a true physical and visible connection to the past, a rare, irreplaceable structure created by a celebrated local architect. It should not be replaced with a sign and a small brass disc in the dirt. Thank you.
Thanks. Michelle is next, followed by Andrea.
Hi. You are already familiar with me and my opinions on the gazebo, and that's not what I'm going to talk to you about. I have 3 suggestions for the dog park, and I feel kind of strongly about all 3 of them. One, the least important, but also I think a very good suggestion, is like a picnic table. So you can have a picnic with your dog. So say your teenager can go do their homework in the dog park while their dog plays. That would be awesome, especially for those apartment kids. And then 2, a spigot. A spigot will prevent disease and give us a chance to wash off our shoes if some doo-doo is missed. And the diseases in particular that you can get from shared water bowls, like at other dog parks, people will bring gallons of water and they'll all share, which is, nice, and they're thirsty, and they do. But they can get the Bordetella virus, which gives kennel cough, giardiasis, cryptococcuses, and that one I don't know what it is, but it sounds bad. But it's, there's bacteria, viruses, parasites. They can all be in that shared water. And I took a picture of one in Edmonds at a dog park. It's simple, it's cheap, I'm sure. And there's already water fountains on the other side of the tennis courts. And so there's water there. It's right in the middle of the city. There's water. They just need to reroute maybe a little and tap it. And then on the second page is my 3rd suggestion. This is, show everybody else. I'm sure when this first came up, somebody mentioned that the grass can be degraded at dog parks, and you may have seen it, like it gets all muddy. This is a solution for that would cost us like $5,000. For $5,000, we lay this stuff down. In 2 weeks, the grass has grown, especially this time of year. The grass has grown up enough that you never see it again. And I did something similar in my own yard, and it worked awesomely. My father's done it, and so anyway, I looked it up. This particular brand has high ratings, and there's other brands, though, and please consider that, because then we could have like the best dog park in the whole county. Better than any in King County even, or even Pierce. We could have the best dog park in Washington, and that would be pretty freaking awesome, I think. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks. And then our last speaker is Andrea.
That was an upper, right? That was great.
Hi, Andrea Tucker, Everett, Washington. We've heard it all. We've gone over this for weeks and months and whatever. So, since a couple of the letters that were written were read by the Bayside neighborhood from people that weren't able to attend the meeting, I thought I'd read the petition of the names of the residents, some in Bayside and some in other neighborhoods here, of the people that wanted to keep the gazebo. So I'm going to read these names because there were quite a few of them. Linda Center, Mary Center, Bob Mayer, Michael Larkin, Jeff Kelly, Barbara Barron, Bob Barron, Jim Brandley, Katie Bradley, Ed Glazer, Sabrina Camacho, Jean Carrillo, Marilyn Rosenberg, Gail Chisholm, David Hathaway, Karen Munz, Kaylee Lynn Hathaway, Linda Strand, Trivia Anderson, Lila Anderson, Denise Held, Debbie Hansen, some I can't read, Theodore Apperson, Janet Gore, Johnny Smith, Kathy White, somebody Kelly, Sarah DeSimone, Fred DeSimone, Ben Austin, Mark Garcia, Anthony Vandenberg, Paul Papelka, myself, Jim Imhoff, and Sean Southwick. So those were just the ones that were Everett residents. And I just take a little bit of offense to the hoop skirts and brass bands. I've been president of Historic Everett. I've been involved with Historic Everett since maybe 2006. We're an educational group. We advocate for historic preservation, and we have educational talks that maybe some people could become educated in. We're not about brass bands and hoop skirts. So thank you, and I hope that agree with the funding package, that the funding should be separate than the dog park, and I hope that maybe we can do something. And thanks for listening.
Those are all of the submitted comments that we had for this item
All
for
right, well,
tonight.
thank you. And before we get on to questions, do we have a motion, a second for this measure?
I will move action item number 9.
Second that motion.
All right, then time for discussion, questions.
Hooray!
Councilmember Oakley.
Thank you all. I've been listening really well and didn't write anything up for tonight. I also am upset about the process that has occurred for this item. And I do want an accountable path forwards. I've done a lot. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what my vote will be, and also tell you what I want as well. So, unless something else happens that I'm unaware of, and there's unless something else happens, I'm gonna vote yes to give the dog park its life and to give the gazebo its life somewhere else. It's just hard, but there needs to be an accountable path forward, like somebody said, probably a few people said. I want to be a part of that, so I would even also be willing to put some of my ARPA funds into moving and rebuilding the gazebo. Part of my reasoning came from while I was on the Parks Board tour. I was thinking of my childhood, and at Chetzemoka Park in Port Townsend, Washington, there's just it's a wonderful park, and there's a gazebo, and I grew up playing in that gazebo and all sorts of things, and then my mom got married in that gazebo, and I haven't heard any stories about the Clark Park gazebo like the one I just shared about this other particular gazebo. Maybe there's drug use going on there now. I don't know. I haven't been there in a while. But it's a lovely structure, but it's a structure. I'm still willing to bet that it wasn't built, this one that is standing there now, previous to 1950. I'm thinking maybe it was rebuilt in 79, but I haven't been able to find through all of the different city council records when that actually happened, and nobody's brought forth those particular records. So that's where I am. I want to give forward some money, and I want to be a part of making sure in writing that the city will actually follow, and I will be here for them to do that, to get it moved. And that's what I have right now. I might say something more after everybody else. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Tui.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody who's been here several times and met with us outside of the meetings and gave us your comments. Really appreciate all of them. I'm disappointed that the clarity of our process didn't seem to go as it should. Hopefully we can improve on that for future. And I respect that this is a historic fixture in our oldest park. And it has played a tremendous role in our community building efforts over the years, especially, when it was first put together. But I don't like to accept something historic like that, to have it chain linked up or to have it decimated by drug use and what's happening. We don't have anybody who can go in there and clean it up every day, and that's not the purpose, that's not the use, a respected use of a historic fixture. And I'm definitely not a proponent of getting rid of it altogether. I think that I view it similar to if you mentioned about the Weyerhaeuser House. I remember when they brought it down the river back in 1984 and put it first down at the port. They almost moved it up by the library at one point in time. And then it ended up back out further on the waterfront, restored, and a whole new reason for it to be there. So we can enjoy it, but yet the purpose is much different. So we know that the gazebo is not moving the gazebo won't get rid of the drugs. They're everywhere. But I will say that I trust the staff will come back to us with a relocation plan. I'd be more than glad to help with that. I think that it can be in a place where people can rent it for weddings or whatever, and used that way, and I am more than happy to allocate some of my ARPA funds. And the sooner we do this, then if I have any left, I can give that out too. And on the dog park side of it, I've been on council for 9 years. I worked downtown for 30 odd years. And we've had a lot of requests for dog parks. Over 45% of the renters in downtown, they say, have dogs. And so the more that people are isolated, they love their dogs, even in the homes, they're their security. So having an off-leash dog park is really going to make the downtown a lot more attractive for people wanting to move here. And I think that's a really important piece. I also think the 3 suggestions were very good suggestions, and if we can incorporate those, Bob, into the plan would be great. So I will be voting to move forward on this. I'm hoping that next time we can have more clarity on the process, and that we will have a relocation plan come back to us in not very long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Fossey.
I have a few questions, but first, I wanted to thank you about your stats on the dog owners. It reminded me that I did not report that the Animal Shelter Advisory Board did discuss that they had kitten yoga. So if anyone is interested in that, please definitely visit their Facebook page. But back to my questions. What Patrick was speaking about with regards to a city council vote on the COA and the process for that, is there any way for that to be addressed at this point?
A couple of things I would say. Number one, not at this point. The planning director made a very reasonable interpretation of the code in determining it was a COA instead of a waiver of a COA, and I thought it was reasonable for the reasons I outlined in my April 17 memo. If you would like your code to have more clarity, we'd be glad to work with you to amend the code to make it more clear for the future, but we are where we are. I'm not related to Patrick Hall, by the way. I hope that answers your question.
If that is something, Patrick, that you think is of value to amend the code to be more specific and direct, please don't hesitate to contact us, because does seem like there's a difference of opinion in the interpretation of it, and it's best when these things are clear. So please just let us know. The other question, Bob. Thank you. How feasible would some of these options be? Or are some of these planned already for the area?
Thank you. I don't believe we currently have water slated for this site, but we do have water at some of our other dog parks, and I think that we could look into, at some point, adding water to this dog park. I think water stations for cleaning dogs off or drinking water is a good idea. So we could look at that in the future. There are tree root, we are concerned about the trees, so there is tree root protection already, so that there's like an anti-digging surface around the base of the trees, so that the dogs couldn't damage the root structures for those trees. It's not all over the place, but I know that some of that is already in there. And then I think the third one was benches or picnic tables. I don't really recall, but yes, adding benches is very doable.
I would love to hear more about that, and then maybe if that's something that the Bayside Neighborhood Association is interested in, we can chat. As far as the reinforcement netting, that seems like it was more about grass and
I grabbed it from the speaker just so that I can, so she'd let me
Take a
have
look at
her
it?
copy.
Okay.
So that I'll take it back so that staff can take a look at it and investigate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And for the water, I would love to get a quote for just a single spigot, since we already have water running to that park. What it would look like to cost to just do a very simple installation, kind of like you see in the picture.
We'd be happy to vet that out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. I have more questions. Councilmember, you were speaking. Was there an amendment that you wanted to make before I go on?
Thank you for asking. I didn't have one all figured out beforehand, but if there were to be an amendment, it would be to, this is a really long answer to, I don't know. I don't know how to word that amendment. So, that. We can discuss right here, right now.
Do you want to spit it out at David Hall and see if he can word it for you?
And if it has to do with a path forward on the reuse of the dismantled gazebo, that is probably best a standalone motion at a future meeting rather than an amendment to the funding ordinance, but that's up to you.
That's what I felt was probably appropriate.
So would that be a motion after this is done, or?
I think, or at next week's meeting, and I can certainly help craft that motion for you.
Fabulous.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
Does she need a second for that?
I guess technically, yes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yes. All right, so we got that. That's good news. I just wanted to say that I don't mind brass bands. And I do like historical preservation in a variety of forms. And I believe that our historical society plays a very important role. I do think that there was a different interpretation, and that's what we're kind of basing our process off of this time around. Hopefully there will be clarity in the future on that. And my approach to this today, because this isn't my district, I do drive home past Clark Park after council, and the gazebo is often not being put to probably its best use or its intended use when it was originally built. And it's no longer in that center of that park now that the tennis courts are there and the playground is there, and its grandeur is no longer being shown in being such an urban environment where we have a lack of shelter. And we have continued on this pathway forward of not providing enough shelter for our unhoused residents. And unfortunately, due to it being so urban, it has, fallen into disrepair, become a bathroom, and it is not a sanitary place to be utilized for the positive things I think it was once intended for. I don't think it's being respected where it is. I think that it deserves to be, to continue to exist, but in a place that actually, where it is cherished and is loved and it shines. Right now, it is in a very shaded area. Those trees have grown up, and it is being outshone by the other needs and amenities of that park because they're moving forward with other best uses of what that area should be used for now for its current residents. The purpose of that park has changed, but that history, I do believe in, still deserves to be preserved. And it sounds like we will have hopefully a pathway forward to do that. And thank you to all my council members that are putting dollars towards that. And it's very respectful of my neighbors in this community. I wanted to thank everyone for all of the engagement because there has been an outpouring of opinions on this, more so than a lot of other issues. But my direction of where I'm going to fall on this is going to lie with the Bayside Neighborhood Association. They have worked very hard in activation of this park in this area to try to solve and mitigate some of the concerns and the safety issues and the problems, and I applaud their efforts, but at some point, there's only so much that you can do when it's the environment that is contributing to the difficulties of solving those issues. And with, again, not enough shelter and assistance out there to help the community, the gazebo, its best use and the way it can shine is to be moved. So I know it was a bold and difficult decision for the Bayside Neighborhood Association to take their stance of what they believed in. There was a lot of opposition to that, but I trust in all of the volunteerism and all the work that they've been doing, trying to engage with that park for years. Seeing them at events and hearing of the difficulties when they're trying to set up for the events to mitigate the issues that are going on. I've seen it firsthand. And so I'm just going to have to follow their lead on this. But again, I appreciate everybody that contributed to this conversation because now we have a pathway forward to preserve our history and give that park a new purpose.
Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. A difficult decision, obviously, both, at least because there are good people I know and respect on both sides, and I'm generalizing here, but it apparently pits two important values, preserving our heritage and reducing crime against each other. My experience has been that covered areas in our parks become host to mischief and misbehavior, and we noted last week and today about both Jackson and Garfield Park, and I'm hoping that our Parks Department is taking a look at those because I do believe that and other parks probably need to have that addressed as well. But as to the degree we've heard about it at Clark, far exceeds anything I've heard about the complaints at the two parks near me, Jackson and Garfield. And of course, this gazebo too is in the middle of the park. Or at least as far away from the roads as you can get. So I think that makes it maybe even more attractive place for mischief as well. And I would also, again, I'd like to know, like other council members have, that the use of the gazebo has mostly been by the neighborhood, almost exclusively, I think, for events. So that notably factored into my decision too. And I would note that my decisions on council have put a lot of weight on what our neighbors voice in a lot of issues that have come before us. So put a lot of weight on what the neighborhoods say to us. Certainly relying on our city attorney and planning director in their guidance in terms of the process, and if it had come to us as a waiver request, I would note that I would have supported that waiver based on the information I've heard about the situation here. Even though it pains me greatly to disappoint our historic community leaders, I'm going to support the neighborhood request, but obviously, as my other fellow council members have noted, ready to vote as soon as possible for a funding item to move relocation of the gazebo forward. Thanks.
Thank you. I firmly disagree that our code is unclear on this. The Everett Municipal Code 19.28.140A says no person shall change the use, construct any new building or structure, or reconstruct, alter, restore, remodel, repair, move, or demolish any existing property on the register without review by the Historical Commission, the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, or in the case of demolition, a waiver as a result of the review. The Historic Commission letter shared that the Historic Commission has decided to indefinitely postpone the city's request for the certificate of appropriateness, and this is because the commission strongly feels that a certificate of appropriateness is not the appropriate mechanism for this request. We believe that a waiver of the certificate of appropriateness would have been the correct path. All of our boards and commissions are comprised of talented, thoughtful volunteers and largely serve as advisory bodies. And in this case, they are advising us that we should follow the letter of our code and that they should have reviewed a waiver of a certificate of appropriateness. I believe we should follow our code. We should stay in line with the process and honor the request of our historic commission. The outcome may be the same, but at least it was done right. It didn't circumvent procedure by removing council from the process, and it also does not set a bad precedence. And with that, I would like to make a motion to refer this matter back to the Historic Commission for their consideration and deliberation of a waiver of a certificate of appropriateness.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. Hall, I'd like some advice on the way to proceed procedurally in this.
I think that's a valid motion, and you should vote on it.
Okay, then I think we have discussion and comments on that motion. Councilmember Vogely.
Having also read that code, and completely agreeing that the process has absolutely not been followed properly, and you know how I am, being a stickler on process and things going as they should and as they are written. It'll probably, as our Historical Commission members have stated, it will probably end up being the same vote. This is not a matter of urgency, so I think that it will be quite feasible to delay this so that we can do it the right way.
More discussion, Councilmember Vader.
Thanks, Council President. The information about the process is not new. This feels like an 11th hour effort. Had this motion been made maybe 2 weeks ago when this issue first came before the council on first reading, I might have been inclined to support it, but at this point, I'm going to vote no on this motion. Thank you.
Other comments on this motion to refer? No comments? Clerk, please take the roll on the motion to refer.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
No.
Councilmember Toohey?
No.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab?
No.
Vice President Zarlingo?
No. So that motion does not pass. We're back to any questions or comments. Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. Been a little busy these last couple weeks, but tonight I will be a hesitant yes, but share my colleagues' concerns about establishing clear expectations that administration is good on their word, and that the storage of the gazebo is temporary, and that there will be clear plans for a renewed life that will include the voices and perspectives of all interested parties. And I'd also like to request for a plan that outlines how we're going to mitigate residual effects from the displacement of the individuals that utilize the gazebo on a daily basis for purposes that aren't in line with the intended use of the gazebo. Thanks.
And are there other comments or questions? Councilmember Vogely.
Let's see. Do you remember how much it costs for a bathroom? Is it like 750,000? I can't remember. I know because we're building the two. And one is almost, anybody remember that number off the top of their head? Since we're
I
here.
don't have the number off the top of my head, but I wouldn't dispute your $750,000 number.
Okay, well, that's more than I have. Thank you, but I do think we need water and toilets, even though it's a neighborhood park and everybody supposedly has their own bathrooms to go to. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions, including you, Councilmember Schwab?
I just really appreciate the debate and the amount of time that all the council members and staff has put into this event. So don't make this decision lightly, and I know none of you are too, so thank you.
I'll echo that. If there are no other comments or questions, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes?
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes. And with the end of our agenda and no other business, we are now adjourned.